3D?
I'll argue that it could be.
Okay.
And the reason that it can be is people do bad VR. So the thing is that like bad 3D,
yeah.
when I worked in 3D, so I did a lot of 3D. We built 3D software, we built rigs, we shot a lot of big stuff with big cameras, and when you had a 3D pair of 3D glasses looking at a 3D screen, coming straight out of two F-23s that are going through a beam splitter and corrected, it was amazing. Like you were like, this is the best thing ever. And then you go to the screen, you'd go to a movie where they had cut people out and moved them over and done all this stuff, and you're like, oh, it's okay. I don't know if it's really worth it. So I think that it really got watered down, and James Cameron really made a big deal about this, is that if you don't do it well, people will not want to pay the extra and do all those other things. And I think that's what happened to 3D a lot, was people looked, it was a big money maker, so we're just going to retrofit a bunch of old stuff, and then of course it's really hard to shoot it well. In the same way that VR right now is really hard to shoot well, so that if a lot of bad stuff comes out, I think it is it's a huge liability to the entire platform to have a lot of bad content.
But one thing I gotta say though, 3D, it wasn't used necessarily right. There was one piece of 3D which I thought was just phenomenal, and that was Scorsese's Hugo. He used it in a way that helped tell the story, and I thought that there was something there. But the only problem is that it was just a small jump above what the movie experience is anyway. Whereas this is a whole nother ballgame. I mean, it's just it's almost like there's going to be a piece of content where everyone has to watch it. And hopefully there'll be more and more like that, because again, it is very accessible. And I really argue that it is not 3D, but I do agree with you. We do need to have good experiences, because it's very easy for us to have this experience, have a bad experience, and basically just cut it off. But Viewmaster is coming, and our kids are going to be watching this. And so to me, it's like there's a big difference between 3D and virtual reality, and I think that our kids are going to grab onto this pretty readily.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard 3D compared to someone referred to it as it's a filter on a TV almost, where VR is a brand new medium. So I think you're right, Alex. Bad VR can sync, bad anything can sync anything. But
and the worst part is the 3D in VR, it could sync VR, because when I actually, when we shoot both 3D and 2D, and if you don't get 3D just right, perfectly, it's really painful over time, and so the thing is that I'd rather shoot a bunch of 2D and have it, be a great experience, and rather than throwing the ball all the way into the end zone and not getting it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, I feel like we're far from the dangers of 3D, but because of the fact that it is a new format, it's a new way to experience things, there's something emotional about it, as opposed to it just feeling like something that, if done poorly, is kind of gimmicky. So the dangers, totally correct. But I don't think it's going to go that way. I think we can still, push it in the right direction.
Well, it's also, unlike 3D, VR has an emotional impact that almost protects it in a way. I mean, bad VR is still bad VR, but I don't know that 3D had the same emotional, empathetic tunnel to your emotions, if you will, that VR has. And I think that's a big difference from VR. But we'll see.
My kids weren't that impressed with 3D. My daughter's 6, and her way of asking for the Gear VR is, can I have the thing that takes me to other worlds where I can't see my feet? That's her explanation of what VR is.
That's right. All right. That makes sense. But it's still early days for the audience. So one of the questions, if I was a filmmaker in the audience, I might ask, should I go now? Should I wait? Should I see it develop? How can I make money at this? It's so early days. So why don't you sort of answer that for the audience as to what, if you're not very familiar with it, if you haven't begun working in that area, do you wait? Do you see how it matures? Do you go in now? Why don't you comment, please?
If you have any interest in it, it's not very hard to do. You can produce a lot of it. And what's important right now is not producing perfect content, even if you don't know where the business model is. It is producing a lot of content so you can get your head around what makes it work, because it's a new medium, and you're not gonna get it right. So what we do a lot of is R&D, but I'm literally able to teach a teenager to shoot relatively good VR work in a day. To go out there and shoot it. It's 6. And they started innovating. Like I taught my nephew, and then he taught taught other kids. Before you knew, we had this team group, and then they came up with all this new stuff of shooting and so on and so forth. But it's that simple because it's 6 GoPros. It's to start, or even go out. One of the things that I carry around all the time is the little Ricoh, the little Theta. That's like my little previs tool. So I hook that thing to cars and things and drones and all kinds of stuff just to get an idea of what it works. But I would definitely say the technology is going to get easier and easier to build great content. But what's going to be hard is thinking about how to do it. So if you want to get into the business for a small investment, it's worth doing now and doing often.
And I think